The First Secret, Final Chapter. Joseph finally married Sheila. The wedding was everything they had dreamed of. Music filled the air as friends and family gathered to celebrate. Laughter echoed throughout the venue while cameras flashed from every direction. Henry stood proudly beside Joseph as the best man. As he watched Sheila walk down the aisle in her beautiful white gown, he couldn't help but smile. Joseph's journey was finally complete. The woman he loved was coming home. For a moment, Henry felt genuinely happy for his friend. Yet beneath the smile was a feeling he could not ignore. Envy. Not because Joseph was getting married, but because Joseph knew exactly what he wanted. Henry did not. While Joseph exchanged vows and promised his future to Sheila, Henry's own future remained uncertain. Part of him still thought about Gina, the woman he had met only once and had disappeared from his life. The woman who continued to live rent-free inside his imagination. Diana attended the wedding briefly. She looked elegant as always. Confident. Successful. Different. When she arrived, Henry's heart skipped a beat. Perhaps today they would reconnect, spend time together, and things could return to normal. Instead, Diana greeted everyone politely and left shortly afterward. She claimed she had business matters to attend to. Henry watched her walk away. There was no argument, no complaint. No discussion about marriage. No win. Just a quick goodbye. And she was gone. For some reason, that hurt more than all the pressure she had ever given him. Joseph and Sheila left for their honeymoon. For the first time in years, Henry found himself completely alone. The apartment felt strangely silent. No Joseph cracking jokes. No discussions over breakfast. No late-night conversations. Just silence. Every morning he woke up, made tea, sat alone, then left for work. Every evening he returned, cooked alone, ate alone, and slept alone. At first, he enjoyed the freedom. Then the loneliness arrived. Slowly, quietly, like a thief. Several times he called Diana and invited her over. The answer was always the same. I'm busy. Busy. The word had replaced when. The woman who once came uninvited and begged for his attention now barely had time for him. Henry hated how much that bothered him. A week later, Joseph returned from his honeymoon with his wife. And a plan. He and Sheila rented their own apartment and moved out. The day Joseph packed his belongings felt strange. Years of friendship had filled the apartment with memories. The two friends carried the final box downstairs. Neither spoke for a moment. Then Joseph smiled. You'll be okay. Henry forced a laugh. Of course. But deep down, he wasn't sure. After Joseph left, the apartment felt emptier than ever. Unfortunately, loneliness wasn't Henry's only problem, money became tight as well. Without Joseph sharing expenses, the rent became impossible to manage. The landlord showed little sympathy. Every week came another reminder. Another warning. Another knock on the door. Eventually, Henry accepted reality. He could no longer afford the apartment. The place that had once been filled with friendship, laughter, dreams, and endless conversations had become a burden. One Saturday morning, he packed his belongings. The process was quick. There wasn't much to take. A few pieces of furniture. Some clothes. A handful of memories. As he locked the door one final time, he stood silently in the corridor. This apartment had witnessed everything. His friendship with Joseph. His battles with Diana. His obsession with Gina. The mysterious ring. The endless maybes. Now it was over. He handed the keys to the landlord and walked away. The new apartment was much smaller. The walls were older. The neighborhood was quieter. The rooms felt cramped. But the rent was affordable. That first night, Henry sat alone on a single chair in the middle of the room. No television. No decorations. No company. Just silence. As darkness filled the room, he realized something. His life had changed completely. Joseph had moved on. Sheila had become a wife. Diana had built her own world. Even the dream of Gina had slowly faded. Everyone seemed to be moving forward. Everyone except him. For years, Henry had blamed circumstances for his problems. Money. Timing. Relationships. Bad luck. But sitting alone in that tiny apartment, he finally faced a truth he had spent years avoiding. The biggest obstacle in his life had never been Diana or Gina or money. It had been his inability to decide what he truly wanted. And for the first time, Henry wondered whether it was finally time to stop chasing possibilities and start building a future. Outside his window, the city lights flickered in the distance. For the first time in a long while, the future frightened him. But it also gave him hope. Because every ending carried the possibility of a new beginning. And Henry's story was only now beginning. Months passed. Nathan's search produced nothing. Gina seemed to have vanished completely. No one knew her, no one had seen her, and no new clues emerged. Slowly, Henry accepted that the woman from the train might remain nothing more than a memory. Meanwhile, Diana's business began to flourish. What started as a small venture grew steadily. She became more confident, independent, and focused on her own future. Surprisingly, she stopped talking to Henry altogether. At first, Henry was relieved. Then he became curious. Eventually, he became worried. The attention he once took for granted was gone. One evening, Diana asked to meet him at a small restaurant. Henry arrived expecting an ordinary conversation. Instead, he found a different Diana sitting across from him. Calm. Confident. Certain. Henry walked towards Diana with one hand behind his back hiding a small bouquet of flowers. He wanted to make things work with Diana, wanted to ask for forgiveness and marriage. Henry attempted to go on one knee and ask one last question, "Will you marry me?" Diana quickly held his hand and helped him stand up. She didn't want any drama. They sat on a table for two looking at each other. Moment of silence. Diana was the first one to speak. "I owe you a thank you," she said. Henry frowned. "For what?" "For helping me realize that my happiness shouldn't depend on someone else's decision." The words hit him harder than he expected. Diana smiled gently. "I spent years waiting for you to choose me. While waiting, I forgot to choose myself." Henry felt a knot forming in his stomach. "Diana." She raised a hand. "I loved you, Henry. Maybe a part of me always will. But I've spent too much time chasing someone who wasn't sure." For the first time, Henry understood exactly what he had done. While he was chasing a fantasy named Gina, Diana had been building a real life. And now she no longer needed him. A few moments later, another man entered the restaurant and greeted Diana warmly. She introduced him as a business partner. The way they looked at each other told Henry everything he needed to know. He had lost her. Not because she stopped loving him, but because he never appreciated her love when he had it. That night, Henry walked home alone. As he passed the railway station, he stopped and looked at the tracks. For months, he had believed Gina was the answer to all his problems. Now he realized something. He had never truly known Gina. He had fallen in love with an idea. A dream. a possibility. The real person who had loved him, supported him, and waited for him was Diana. And he had let her slip away. When he reached the apartment, Joseph was waiting. "How did it go?" Joseph asked. Henry looked at his friend and smiled sadly. "You were right." "About what?" Henry glanced out the window toward the distant railway tracks. "Sometimes we're so busy chasing the train that's already gone that we fail to see the person standing beside us." Joseph nodded quietly. "And now?" Henry took a deep breath. "Now I move forward." For the first time in a long time, there were no maybes. No fantasies. No unanswered questions. Only the lessons left behind by love, loss, and the choices he could never take back. The end. If you enjoy the story, like and share with friends. If you are new to the channel, kindly subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Thank you for watching.